Hi, my name's Adrienne Osborne. I'm the owner of Performance High Vocal Training in Denver, Colorado, and this is Justin Long, the artist development coach slash engineer slash producer. We're going to talk about how to pick songs to cover.
Yeah, and that's, we're going to talk about both for YouTube and for bands playing live, solo artists playing live. First off, let's talk about how to pick songs to cover on YouTube. First off, and we'll talk about this with bands too, I would say one of the big things is make sure it's a song you sound good doing. I know
that may not need, it seems like it shouldn't be necessary to say, but
I know that seems like bad advice, but I see people almost every day that they come across as not as good as they actually are because they're trying to do stuff that they don't do well. It's whether the key is wrong and they're not changing the key, or the style, or just even if it's like you know how it is. You can kill one Adele song and the other one gives you trouble. Yeah. Do the one that you kill. It doesn't really matter how much you love the song. You're doing the song to share with other people, so just make sure it's a song you can do really well. The second thing that I tell people all the time is if you're covering songs, well, if you're covering songs for fun, have fun. But if you're covering songs, trying to get yourself out there as an artist, try to pick songs that brand you. What I mean by that is if you want to be seen as an Adele type singer, let's say, you don't have to just cover Adele, but cover stuff that is similar so that when people look at your page and they see the 5 or 10 covers you've built up, without even watching any of the videos, they have a pretty good idea of what kind of artist you are. Let's say you wanted to be a rap artist, right? You would cover Eminem, whatever, or if you were a newer rap artist, Playboi Carti, Kid Cudi, whoever. But artists that are going to give people an idea of who you are as an artist. So songs that just showcase the artist you want to be once you're the headline guy and people are covering.
What about all those videos we see where someone has covered a song from a completely different genre and made it their own?
I think that's a great thing. You just have to make sure that it's a cool version of it. I mean, that goes back to the first thing. Is like, if you're going to do that, make sure that you've figured out a cool original way to do that.
I would also suggest that maybe that's not the first thing to do necessarily.
That was what I was just going to say.
Right.
That should be maybe unless that's just your whole shtick and your gimmick is that you're a guy who does songs at a genre. But if you're trying to put yourself out there as the next Ariana Grande, you want to be doing Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, Melanie Martinez, whatever, people in that genre. And then maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 10 is that at a genre crossover. Most of it, you want it to be in your genre so that people know who you are.
And so that people who like those artists find you.
Yeah, that's another thing. The other big thing, again, if you're trying to get noticed, is do your research. Meaning, you're going to get a lot more return off of a song that hasn't been covered by 100 other people. So let's say it's Melanie Martinez. Look through YouTube and find songs that maybe haven't been covered by 1 million people. I had an artist development client a couple years ago who had millions of plays on one of their covers because they covered a song that there weren't other covers of. And so when people went and looked for, I think it was like a Little Big House, it was like a country artist. But it was a song that didn't have other covers. So when people went and looked for that song by the original artist, right under the original artist was that person. And maybe you're not going to find a song that hasn't been covered by anybody. But again, you're just going to get buried if there's no prize for being the millionth cover of Hello by Adele. You're just going to be on page 50 of the YouTube search and people aren't going to find you.
Yeah.
So those are, I think, the things to think about with doing YouTube covers.
I think one more suggestion, actually, if I can add, is to cover lesser known artists in your genre, if there are some. So instead of covering Adele, or instead of even covering an Adele B-side, if there is such a thing.
Right.
Oh gosh, who would an equivalent? I don't even know off the top of my head, but another ballad, big voice diva who is just not well known. Like, you just go down the rabbit hole with either YouTube or Spotify or Pandora,
Right.
and find related artists. And then if you can find one that is kind of feels like that, and you cover that, that person's already going to have fans, and those fans are more easily going to find you.
Right. And again, you're not in as big of a sea. We did that recently with an artist where, that was our advice to them, was to find some stuff like, this isn't an accurate thing, but we suggested, rather than covering Blink-182, you cover a lesser known pop punk artist. They weren't pop punk, but you get what I'm saying. And again, that just makes it easier for people to find you. And I think this artist that we work with is going to be very in a good place, because I think they're going to have the only cover out there of both of those artists.
Yeah.
And they're big artists. I mean, it's just that they're not, whatever, Bruno Mars big.
Right. So that's the YouTube.
That's
online.
YouTube.
So covering songs live.
Covering songs live.
Which songs are you going to cover live?
My first piece of advice, whether you're a solo artist, duo, full band, bar band, dance band, whatever, however many songs you need to add, like let's say you need to add 10 songs, pick out 20 and have everybody learn those 20 songs. Then when you show up to band practice, if you haven't had the experience, you will. Some songs that seem like they should work out great and shouldn't be a problem, for whatever reason, they just don't go as well. And other songs, first time through, the band kills it, or first time through, the duo kills it, whatever. And that way, my point being, pick 20, learn 20, show up the 10 or so that go the best, keep those, let the other ones go. There's a million songs out there.
So just,
whatever number,
learn twice
3, learn twice as many. And don't, I think it's a waste of time in kind of any band to kill yourself trying to make a song, trying to we've been in situations where we've spent 6 months trying to get a cover of a song that is just, the real answer is we shouldn't be covering this song.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have, back when, in one of my first bands, we had our first gig coming up in a couple of weeks. Our first ever gig, it was a wedding gig.
Oh God.
Yeah, and so we were putting together an entire wedding set.
Right.
And the band leader, who was not me, was just insistent that we had to play this one particular Jamiroquai song. Of the 2 8-hour rehearsals we did for that, we spent one of the entire rehearsals learning that song.
Learning that one song.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's
lesson learned.
That's yeah, and you only learn by doing it. So anyway, again, do songs that work for you.
Yeah, obvious. What about different selections for different kinds of bands?
Right.
Did I derail you?
No, you didn't at all. I was just, thought 3 things at once.
That's what happens when Justin freezes. It's like, on the outside, there's nothing going on.
Yeah. It's that I'm thinking 3 things and I can only say one and I can't decide which one to say. So you're talking about whether it's a dance band, a corporate band, a wedding band, a bar band,
tribute
band,
an original band,
right?
Adding covers.
Adding covers. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I think one of the best things you can do if you're in a commercial band, where you're
what does that mean?
Commercial band is like, a dance band, a wedding band,
a band that is together with the primary purpose of making money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So that could even be a bar band, that could be a blues band, that could be whatever. But if you're trying to be a commercial band, again, one of the best things you can do is do your research. Lots of other bands and acts are going to have their set list up online. It's pretty easy to know what, let's say we wanted to start a wedding band. I would first go look at what the biggest wedding band I can find in my local area and check out their list, right? That's going to give me an idea of what people want to hear. Like, if these guys are doing good, they're playing stuff that people want to hear, right? That might also give me a chance to pick some stuff that they don't have. It would probably be a little 50-50. I guess what I'm getting at is, if you're in a commercial band, the thing you want to do is play the songs that people want to hear.
Yeah, and it may seem obvious to state, but
Right.
there's always an urge, and I've had it
Sure.
myself, to play, to be different, to not play the same old
Right,
standards, not play the same old covers, but there really is kind of a formula.
Yeah.
There is a repertoire that you need to know. Maybe you add a couple offbeat selections that still fit the formula more or less, but
Yeah.
you can't just pick your favorite songs and go play them at someone else's wedding.
Right. Right. I mean, and I'm sorry, you're probably gonna have to play Uptown Funk. You know what I mean? And knowing, what's weird, I'll speak directly to this. When I moved to Denver 10 years ago and was in a commercial band with Adrian, the 10 or 20 you must play songs were not the 10 or 20 you must play songs from Florida. In Colorado, they were different you must play songs. There were some overlaps. Don't Stop Believing. I'm not even going to try to think of them, but I was really surprised that I was like, this is seriously, like, this is a, you can't get a bar gig if you don't play this song out here. Like in Florida, no one cares about that. So that's part of the research, knowing your market, looking at what other people are doing and are working, looking at what's working. And man, I guess I say it, this may wind up being a theme. I think you got to keep ego out of it too. Like, no matter how cool you think that Robin Trower song is and how well you do that guitar solo, if no one knows it and it falls flat over and over again, you need to stop playing that song. You know what I mean? So, and that comes from doing your research. I mean, I'm not that organized of a person, but I definitely pay attention to, over time, when we see sets, what happens when we play certain songs. And that's, time to either add some more of what seems like it's working and get rid of some of the stuff that isn't.
What about original artists adding covers?
Yeah, that...
a totally different
thing, right? You're just adding a cover to just add some interest to your set, maybe have one thing that the crowd already knows, or you just need to play longer gigs and you don't have enough originals yet. Gosh, I mean, the first thing to think about is, again, branding. We'll talk about the opposite of that in a second, but it might be a really good idea to cover stuff. If you're an original band, it might be a good idea to make covers the bands that you want them to think of in the same sentence. If you're a hair rock band, it might be a good idea to cover Van Halen or Bon Jovi, because what you want is people to think of you as Van Halen, Bon Jovi, and that band I saw the other night. They're all the same thing. The other way to go is what you were saying, which is picking something out of genre, like a weird, like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this.
But then putting it into your sound.
Putting it into your sound. And that's one thing I would really caution. I had a really weird experience working with someone who, it was a band that did primarily covers, but also maybe they were like half cover, half original. And their covers were all over the board, as were their originals. But they would play the covers accurately, meaning when they played a Breaking Benjamin song, they would play it just like Breaking Benjamin would play it. And when they did a Tom Petty song, they would play it just like Tom Petty. And when they, what I mean was, they didn't have an overarching style, and it was just very off-putting to be like, what are they, I don't know what they're doing. They keep doing different stuff. And none of it related to their original music. Their original music was in a different universe from the stuff they were covering. So my point being, keeping it in your genre. If you're a metal band and you're going to cover a Britney Spears song, do the metal version. Like, don't pull out the keyboards and try to do it just like, I mean, you'd say obviously, but like, really, this band, it was, good band, good players. It was just like, you couldn't wrap your head around. Anyway, I would say the same thing. Same concept applies from all the stuff for if you're a solo artist. Look for those lesser known songs. Look for those lesser known, well, not lesser known. Of course, you want to do something but maybe lesser covered.
Okay, I was gonna challenge you on that.
Yeah. What I mean is, if you are gonna do a heavy metal cover of "Toxic" by Britney Spears, take a look around Spotify and YouTube and make sure there aren't already 100 metal covers of "Toxic" by Britney Spears.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have a really awesome idea that seems like a home run, do your research and make sure that everybody else hasn't already had that idea.
Yeah, and let's be clear that we're still talking about live performance here, but we're talking about doing online research.
Right. We are talking about live, but
not because it's like a one-to-one thing, but like if there's 100 covers of the thing that you're thinking of covering in your creative way,
right,
then it's not your creative way so much anymore.
And you might wind up having the opposite effect where they're like, oh, this is really hacky. Like every metal band I've seen does, or every whatever band does whatever.
Have we covered it all?
I think we've covered it all. I mean, that's I guess, okay, let's bullet point all of it.
All right.
Do your research.
And with the goal of that research being?
With the goal of that research being, not doing something that's been done a million times. Yeah. Finding a niche, if you're online, and then if you're an not original band, if you're a commercial band, making sure that you're doing the songs that you need to do in your area to be competitive, and that's all from research. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at the biggest corporate band in the area, they probably have some good ideas about what people want to hear in your area.
Yeah, and they might not post their set list online because that's kind of
proprietary,
but they will have some demos.
They will have some demos, so you'll at least have some ideas. So that's one, whatever you're doing, do your research. Number two, God, I keep saying it, but take some ego out of it and just do songs that you actually do well. No matter how much you want to do a song, be honest with yourself. If it's not great, move on to a song that you do great.
I might even move that point up to number one, because it doesn't matter what song you do. It doesn't matter how well people know it or how well it fits your genre. If you don't do it well, then
what's
no purpose
it doesn't. It probably serves a negative purpose.
Yeah.
Number three, for commercial bands, make sure that you're doing songs that people actually like. Not just you.
Just because you like it doesn't mean everybody.
Watch your audience.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, gosh, I guess that's the three things. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, that's our take on how to pick cover songs.
I'm gonna have to edit this one down.
Yeah.